Hello everybody, this is Jurassic Adventures, back again with another video, and this time we'll be taking a look at the highly anticipated Jurassic Park 3 Hammond Collection Spinosaurus. Since the start of the Hammond Collection, this has definitely been my most wanted figure. I even did a concept of it back when I was doing those Hammond concepts, and I made like a Photoshop mock-up of it, so it's so awesome to finally have this figure in hand. And before we get into the review, I did get this figure from Target. It was a pre-order and it cost $60 United States dollars. Now we can take a look at this beautiful new Hammond Collection box. This year for Mattel's Hammond Collection line, they've opted to kind of change it up, and they are all under this sort of true effects, which you can see by that sort of little stamp right there. I'll explain what that means, but basically essentially it's the same sort of darker finish that you are accustomed to. Except we got this blue background. It's the same sort of Rex paddock, and I think it looks really nice. And then you can see this illustration, which is obviously based off the Stan Winston maquette, and that is of the Spinosaurus. We also got the dark glossy logo for the Jurassic World, and the little T-Rex insignia, as well as the Hammond Collection logo and Spinosaurus, it says right underneath it. And I think this box looks pretty good on the front. Nice little window that we can see our Spinosaurus inside there as well. And then moving around to the side of the box, you can see that illustration continues over. We got a nice glossy Hammond Collection logo. And then on the top of the box, we got that same sort of stainless steel with the rivets, as well as a glossy Jurassic World logo. And then on the other side of the box, there's a little blurb you can read about. There's a picture from the movie and also the Hammond Collection logo. Additionally, we also have the Jurassic Park 3 logo. And then moving around to the back of the box, we have that same blurb. It says Spinosaurus, yet another Hammond Collection logo, Jurassic Park 3 logo, and of course that True Effects tab, which allegedly just means there's a little bit more premium deco on this figure, so a bit more paint application, so we'll see about that. And then we also got 3 different renders of the Spinosaurus right there, as you can see. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the box. I think overall it doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty nice. But now that we have that out the way, we can go ahead and unbox the figure. With this figure out of the box, my first impressions are that it looks phenomenal. The paint looks super good, as well as that sculpt, and it looks really accurate to the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus from a first glance. Let's see if there's anything you should really worry about. As per usual, the Hammond Collection figures have the tails removed, and I just forgot to record me plugging in that tail. So it's really easy, you just snap it right in. But let's take a closer look at the action figure. Right now we're going to take a look at the face and the sculpt detail there, and you can see that it is jam-packed full of nice scales and sculpture that looks very accurate to the Stan Winston animatronic. You can see that Mattel really paid attention to the accuracy of this figure, and it looks really nice compared to its screen counterpart. On the underside here you can see that some of that detail softens up a little bit, but as we flip it around to that other side, you can see that it is still jam-packed with all of that detail. And we still got all of those individual scales. The top of the head is also really detailed as well. It includes a bunch of different ridges and stuff to really just make this thing look so much more accurate. Inside the mouth here, you can see that we have some flexible teeth that are all individually molded, and so they are very sharp looking. We also have that jowl that is in a flexible rubber, as well as the tongue, and that flexes as well and is also articulated. And now we can take a look at the detail inside of the mouth, and as you can see, there are some nice ridges in the back of the mouth. The tongue is pretty nicely sculpted as well, and there are some very soft ridges on the upper and under inside of the jaw. If you look carefully, you can see one of the bottom teeth of my Spinosaurus figure is folded over, and it must have got caught under that jaw piece when it was being put together, and so it's kind of folded over, and that's really a bummer. That's definitely a QC issue. Quality control is something I definitely feel is lacking on this figure, and you'll see more of why later. And as we move down, you can see that there's a lot of nice ridges. Here's the underbelly of the neck, still pretty detailed there, and you can see the paint stops about there for those ridges. These scales right here are also very defined, as you can see those ridges that are iconic down the side of the Spinosaurus right below the spine are there present as well. And I would like to say that the accuracy on this figure is really phenomenal. Lots of good detail, and it's much more detailed than even some of the previous Hammond Collection figures, so this is a really good step sculpt wise in the right direction. You can see here that it has these really nicely sculpted arms. The claws are in this rubber material, so they are very sharp, but they are not going to hurt anybody, and they look really great and beefy. You can see the legs here have a little bit less detail, but they are still fairly detailed. The detail's just a little bit softer as you get down to the legs, probably just because of the material they're made out of. We got these nice small feet that are very much so in proportion and still help the figure stand very nicely. As you can see here, they got all the scoot detail, and then we have some larger scales as you go down the tail. I would like to say that the underside of the tail is much more detailed than the underbelly of the figure, which kind of perplexes me. As you can see, I wish there was a little bit more detail on their underbelly, but it's not a whole big deal since I guess you're not really seeing it that much. But this figure looks really great. It looks just like the movie animatronic, and it even looks good from the front view, which honestly is a first in the Hammond Collection line. Starting off with the paint on the head, you can see that we have this nice rusty red, and that carries down all the way to the tail. And you can see we have those nice sort of light gray patterns that are all throughout the snout. You can see also that they are lined with this sort of dark brown, and there's all these little patterns. We also have a little bit of dark brown airbrushing on that lower jaw right there, as you can see, and it also fades into the neck. You can see that we have a bunch of little speckles and details. That eye socket is also in that dark brown, and it just looks super phenomenal. We also got a little bit of dry brushing on the snout, of just a lighter color to kind of fade into there, and I think the head just looks really great. This is one of the best Hammond Collection paint jobs for sure. The inside of the mouth is a flesh tone, and those teeth are in a bone color as well. There's so many different colors and different paint techniques used on the Spinosaurus, especially in the head, that it really makes me think that Mattel is actually following their True Effects promise. We even have a little bit of a darker red on the top here with those stripes, which looks super great. Even though I haven't been a fan of the glass eyes in the past, the glass eyes on this figure actually look really good. They're cast in a nice light green, and they're very accurate. On the ridges up here, we have this unnecessary darker color that's dry brushed on there. I don't think it really adds too much, but you can see below that red that we have that white stripe that's iconic to the Spinosaurus that runs all the way down the body. Stripe stops abruptly above some airbrushed brown to make some stripes on the thigh. The same color we see on that stripe carries all the way down the body to the tip of the tail, which is really great to see on this figure. On the hip bone we have some dark brown dry brushing, and also on the stomach we have some lighter yellow right there. And while some of these color tones are a little weird, it's nice to see some color variation in here. On the spine of the figure, you can see that there are some airbrushed white patterns, which are pretty decently accurate to the Stan Winston animatronic, and those come up on the sort of raised ridges of the sail. But honestly, that's where it kind of just about stops. The sail is probably my biggest gripe. It doesn't have these stripes and spots that you see on the Stan Winston animatronic, and that's a real big bummer. That is a very iconic thing for the Spinosaurus. Yes, we do have this red here. We have a little bit of yellow interspliced, and even maybe some blue in the cracks, but that's so odd that they didn't just print on the pattern or paint on the pattern. It's really a shame because it's such an iconic pattern, and it really could have made this figure almost perfect. And of course, how could I forget, the claws on the fingers and the toes are painted black, but we don't have that dew claw painted, which is really perplexing as we saw it on the Giganotosaurus painted. Now we can move on to the fun part, which is articulation, which is the second thing that makes this figure stand out aside from its detail. Of course, we have the mouth that opens and closes, but the mouth is really finicky and the ratchet is just kind of bad. I wish they would ditch that ratchet, but here it is again. And of course the neck moves at the base of the head and also closer to the body, and that is about as far up as you're going to get in the range of motion, and that is about as far down as you're going to get as well. It doesn't move side to side very much. The arms of course move forward, back, out, and back down, just like so. The elbows do the same thing, down, up, and of course they swivel around. And the same thing with the hands, up, down, and swiveling all about. And then if we move around to the other side of the figure, I actually noticed another quality control defect, and that is when I try to swivel this arm, it just pops right out. There's not enough tension on the arm, and that is really a bummer. Just like all the other figures, the legs move out at the hip, and they also move forward and backwards. This ratchet isn't too strong on this one. And then of course the knees go forward, all about, and back down, and this ankle joint is a little bit stiff, but it goes backwards, forwards, and also all about, and then the foot, same deal. That's pretty much it. They all feel pretty solid joints, especially those ones on the lower, which is good. The tail is on a ball joint at the base here, and the entire tail is made out of rubber, and is similar to the Hammond Collection Brachiosaurus neck actually. You can articulate it or try to have it stay in place. It's not going to hold too well as the rubber's fairly thick, but in some positions like up and down especially, it does actually hold pretty decently, which is good. I like this seamless look. Honestly, it's not too much of a downer for me, and you can still achieve some amazing poses as you can see right here. And this figure just looks great in any pose. The feet can balance this figure however you want it as well. And lastly, for everyone's favorite part, the size comparison. Here's the Spinosaurus next to a Jurassic Park Legacy Collection worker figure. Here it is next to a custom Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptor figure that I've painted, and as you can see, it dwarfs both the raptor and the human. For another Jurassic Park 3 size comparison, here it is next to the Corythosaurus. Next, the custom Chameleon Carnotaurus I've done. For the comparison you've all been waiting for, here it is next to my custom Buck Tyrannosaurus Rex. As you can see, it is much longer, also taller with that sail, and even without the sail, just its neck is taller as well. Here it is next to the Giganotosaurus. It is taller, the Giganotosaurus is definitely longer, and they are about the same height at the base of the head. For my final thoughts on the Hammond Collection Spinosaurus, I think this figure is definitely phenomenal looking. The accuracy of sculpt is really great for the Hammond Collection, and this is definitely a step towards the right direction. I don't like the quality control defects and also some of the lack of the painting. And I'm going to do something that I've never done before. I'm going to give this figure a rating, and I rate this one a 9.1 out of 10. And the reason being that this figure is so close to perfection, but those quality control defects and the paint is just not really quite getting it there. But really close, probably the closest Hammond Collection figure, and definitely my favorite so far. If you're not too scared about quality control defects, I definitely recommend this figure. It looks awesome, it has such a great shelf presence, and is super cool. But that, guys, concludes my review of the Hammond Collection Spinosaurus. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Stick around to see me take some photos of this thing, and as always, guys, this is Jurassic Adventures, and I'll see you in the next video, which is gonna be repainting this awesome figure.